Good Friday morning, and welcome to my winter wonderland. It's still snowing outside. Well, not snowing, but it's snow outside, that's for sure. We've been getting belted this winter season in the Northeast, and hopefully things will become more seasonal. In the meantime, the show must go on because there is no business like show business. Actually, got a few things to talk about today. Primarily, the idea of the world, whether we want to admit it or not, can be a discouraging place. We look around us and we see a lot of bad things each and every day, and I don't see how it can't wear on us over time. Um, Not just the culture and the criminal element we see in it, but just how broken people are. Not only are they broken, when you want to have a discussion with somebody, or you even want to relate to people, and you get on the issue of God. You can see people really. I don't want to use the analogy necessarily to compare people with rats, um, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it kind of is fitting. When a light is hits a rat, the rat scurries. He runs around. He tries to find a corner. He has nothing, no interest in a rat, in the light. The rat does. And likewise, when you have meaningful conversations with people about God, there are lots of avenues they take, but it's all really the same. They're all like little rats scurrying. They don't like to be exposed in the light. They like to see the dark. They prefer to be in the dark. And that can, and some of the manifestations of how they do this is they'll either you know sidestep the issue, not talk about it, not talk about God or where their role is and their responsibility towards a holy and just God. But they'll either attack you for being archaic or being narrow-minded or whatever, or they'll try to sidestep the issue and get on another subject. But they have a reasonable, meaningful, hopefully, um, a conversation about God that would make people really say, you know, this is important. This is the biggest issue of the universe. Is there a God? And if so, what is my responsibility to him? And am I really worshiping in the way that I should? Conversations like that primarily just don't exist. And the reason is because people are like rats. People are creatures of darkness, and the light has no appeal to them. In fact, it blinds them and it's uncomfortable to them, so they don't want to be exposed to it. And this is the most discouraging thing of all. And I think those of us who know God in a personal and intimate way recognize the God of the universe for who he is, a a sovereign, holy, majestic God, one who is seeing all things, one who knows the hair of every head on this earth, one who knows us intimately, one who everything is laid naked and bare before. This God is the God, hopefully, those of us who love Christ see. We don't see him perfectly, but we see him at least in great measure. And there's actually a liability in that. And that liability would be um, we almost are having these daily Job conversations because of what we see. God, I know you're a great God, but look all around me. I see people who seem to have no interest in God. They only seem to be after themselves, and they're all about evil, and it manifests itself in its ways. Basically, when I say evil, I'm talking about self-centered or narcissistic tendencies or idolatry, various forms of evil, and those things are anything to do with making something other than God their own personal God, what's most important to them. And people show that in many ways. And that's very disheartening to those of us who wish we had a world that was more like, well, heaven on earth. I think as Christians, there's no reason why we shouldn't wish for that. We should long for a day where we look around us and we see neighbor loving neighbor, people worshiping God, people serving, people not complaining, people looking for the best in others, people not backbiting, gossiping, And the list goes on and on and on. And each and every day while we pilgrimage this planet, we see a lot of what I'm discussing. And how does that not wear on us? Never mind the fact that you get weather involved in the equation. A lot of times you'll get extreme weather like we're having in the Northeast, snow, or we get cold droughts, and we can get periods of a lot of rain. There are a lot of things that can affect our mood and make us discouraged. In a lot of ways, um, if we're human beings, no matter how strong we are in the faith, we can say, "Why, God? Why? And God, are you really good? It seems to me you've orchestrated a plan, a universe where I got to walk around and look at all this stuff, and it seems like wow, if this is the plan you've made, God, it doesn't seem so good." But getting back to the rat thing, I often think that you know, as human beings, we certainly don't like rats. And I don't make any apology for that. I see really no value in a rat. If I see a whole bunch of rats getting killed, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Oh, and I'm thinking as a human being is high on the scale of evolution, as the Darwinists would say, I'm far superior to a rat. And all of you listeners are far superior to rats. But are we even closer in superiority to a rat than God is to us? God is infinitely knowledgeable, omniscient. All of these attributes put him way, way, way above us, ways we can never fathom. Yet God decided to be mindful of us. The psalmist says, "For those who created the moon and the stars, what is man that thou art mindful of him and thou carest for him?" Why would God choose to come down in the form of a man and live in a humble estate 33 years of his life? Feel all the trials and pains and the physical limitations that we humans have. Well, the reason was, obviously, we know this theologically, it was he came to save a people from their sins. Jesus Christ loved his sheep so much that he gave his life for them. But the thing was, we weren't good. We were like rats. Rats he chose to lay his affections on. As humans, we wouldn't, go out and go through a sewer and say, "I'm going to lay my affection on some of these particular rats." But God has done that. And I think of a recent sermon where we were having in church, and I'm acting as one of the shepherds, or I guess you would call them an elder. I don't want to get into the official dynamics of it because we're a new church, but I get the opportunity to pray for people if they wish after a sermon. And there was a girl who came up afterwards, and she very kind of cowardly, very humbly came up and said, "Are you one of the elders of the church? I need prayer." And she went on to tell me how she had lost her way and she had, you know, not followed God. And you could tell she was broken. She was really torn up about this. And I thought, well, here was an example of somebody who, like everybody else is out there, is a rat scurrying. Yet this particular one somehow was coming towards the light. And that right there kind of put in perspective all my complaints about the world I live in, and how that, yes, there's darkness, but this is God's answer to Job. And it reminded me of the scene in Manhattan when Woody Allen is with Mariel Hemingway, and they're having a little time on a carriage going, I guess, around Central Park. I've never seen a movie in its entirety, but I just saw this clip recently, and this is their parting scene where she's, I guess, going to go off to study, and they have this relationship, and I won't get into that. But the point of the matter was, when he gives her a kiss and he looks at her and he goes, "You're God's answer to Job." God can say to Job, "I made a lot of terrible things happen. A lot of terrible things happen in this life, but I can also make one of these." And he was speaking to Mariel Hemingway because, he adored her. He loved her. And Job just said, "You're right." And that ended the argument. Well, that's how I look at things. Uh, yes, in the Bible, it talks about God hating Esau. But how could God love Jacob? How can God love human beings? What we see around us. That's the good news that God does love. And He does love the brokenhearted. He does love the contrition of a human heart. And it is God who is making these things happen. It is our responsibility. It should be our passion to go out and try to be catalysts so that God will do this. And that is about us loving others. The way God uses the scurrying rats to be drawn into the light is by the compelling love of God's people reaching out, not complaining about the sinners we see out there, not lamenting the fact that the world is so evil, but demonstrating the love of God through our human life and our acts of service. As we do that, we will see more and more examples that God is answering Job's question each and every day, each and every moment. That is a God who is so amazing. His grace is so amazing that it should shine in our hearts so brightly that we go around and just say, God, use me. Use me in a way that will just manifest delight in your kingdom. And that's my thought. God does answer Job. It doesn't mean we're not going to have times where the world is discouraging. But relish those moments when you see the world is so encouraging. You see that God come down from the universe and meet man, change man's hearts, change people's lives. It happens. And there's no telling how much it can happen is if we put our trust and our faith in Him and we make ourselves available to Him through a community of others so we can have contagious love and transparency that a world that is looking for excuses, looking for deflections, looking for rationalizations because they don't want to face the reality that they're sinners. Sin is Satan's means of trying to ruin us. But God always has a plan to thwart the devil. And that plan is love. Love covers a multitude of sins. God loves sinners. And if we've been one-time beggars who have now received our bread and are filled, let us go out and tell people where we found that bread. My thoughts for today? Enjoy your weekend. So long for now. Bye-bye.